We're always very elated to welcome new directors to Sundance for the first time. Singh has had an exciting leap to this point with his short films and music videos, but his striking first features a film that's unexpected in the directions it goes and beautifully put together in the way it approaches its characters as they're brought into each other's paths. It's a meditative, fresh perspective that defies easy categorization and speaks to complexity we don't always get to see on screen in this way. We're really honored to have him with us today for a conversation following the screening, so please do stick around for a Q&A. Welcome back to the stage, the director, Singh Jae.
Thank you. Oh yes, and I'd like to bring up Nguyen, the editor.
Thank you both so much for joining. I'm going to kick it off with a couple of questions, and I'll open it up. I will be repeating the questions so everybody can hear me in the house. Singh, this is based on a true story. When did you first hear about it, and when you were developing it into a feature film, how closely were you staying to what took place versus using it as a jumping off point for your own narrative?
Yes, perfect, thank you. First I want to thank Sundance for inviting us here. It's a beautiful festival, and to all of you who stayed. Yeah, as you mentioned, it was based on true events in 2016 in Orange County, and for me, I started when I first read the article, which was a jumping off point. There was an immediate idea of splitting beneath the veneer and finding this really tender story about these four main characters who I think share so many unlikely similarities. For me, it became more of an inspiration because I saw these characters to be vessels instead of direct links to who they really were, and they could carry wider themes and more universal themes. For me, I filled them with a lot of my own personal experiences that I have grown up in and observed in myself and in my family, and I just filled them as much as I could with observations of different generational divides or cultural divides. But I think the through line was that each one was searching for something, and there was just like a deep well of longing or belonging that I found to be like the center point to all of them in many different ways, and they found similarities within them that I think doesn't just immediately meet the eye. And I would hope by doing that then the audience, as you watch it, you use them as vessels too to fill and project with your own fragments of memories and history from your own families or your own searching in your life, and I think that's what makes it really tangible. So really an inspiration more than anything else.
And kind of jumping off of that a little bit, these fragments, Nghia, I wondered if you could talk a little bit about constructing this in the edit. How did you go about sort of putting together these very different tonal moments as well, in terms of moving from a thriller, these comedic moments and these deeper moments of character connection? How did you balance all that in the edit?
I think in the beginning when we start talking, we know what kind of film we're working. We want to reflect to the Taiwan New Wave cinema, the Hong Kong cinema, and back in 2000s, early 2000s. So when he introduced me these ideas, and I saw the footage, immediately I know how to work on this. So the rhythm is baked in his vision. So when you see the footage, so gorgeous, and then when you can see the chemistry on screen, the actors are so good, and then when you look at it, you really just have to trust your material, like look at the footage. Once you look at the footage, you let the film talk to you, and then that's how I cut the film. So I just follow with the film, follow with the DNA, the rhythm, and to make it based on what we need, the purpose. Like we would need to be a thriller, we need to be a tension, we need to have a tender moment where we should be a bit slower to let audience to live with the character, or the moment we need to get into the fight scene, like in the ocean and everything. So really it's all the production, directors, writers, everybody is a teamwork, really.
And this is probably a question for both of you, but I wondered if you could talk a little bit more about kind of this blend of the almost surreal and yet the very real and very grounded nature of the film, and also how you sort of chose to structure and reveal Long's past.
So just going back to initial reference points, you know, I think both of us coincidentally and fortuitously grew up on a certain kind of cinema, a cinema that beautifies like the temporal ordinary life, and there's like an elevated reality to that that you can just exist in and live with. And for me, I think, you know, why I responded so much to that just growing up was that it allowed you to appreciate your own present reality a little more, and you found like beauty within the ordinary. So that, you know, really became like a through line, and something that I love to cultivate again, just within that elevated reality, is how you fall into memories. You know, like memories are fragmented, and you don't announce them. You don't come into the beginning of it. You normally, you know, it sears into your mind and you drop straight in. I think it's really nice, especially with someone like Long Ma, who the main character, you know, the elderly Vietnamese character, who's so stoic on the outside, but you know, you want to create this feeling of such soft, sentimental, and melancholic core that he's trying to protect. That you wanna feel like he involuntarily drops into them too. And you know, as you notice as we go through, and I'm sure Yang Hua will speak more about it, but you start somewhere so abstract going in, and even like within the second fusion, you start to get more information, and even the way we come out of it, it's like less abrupt than the first one. And by the time we get to the third one, his memories and his presence so close, like that invisible boundary between reality and memories is so thin that, you know, his wife is present in his reality. So yeah, I mean, I'm sure Yang has more to add to this, but that's the starting point for it all.
I mean, I was just adding to it is that this is they all this is all the people who lost their soul. They couldn't find who they are, where they belong. Just by hoping after watching this film, for everybody can have some kind of, make a phone call to your father, to your kids, to even your family, who you think is admitted that you want to love. Just family always has a conflict and always has argument in the good time, bad time, but really this film wants to bring that warmth, and when you walk out of the theater, that's really what we feel.
I want to prompt you to something that we talked about very early on, that we share a similar understanding of, and it's specifically for this film, it's like when you mention our elders aren't emotionally vocal, and everything is compressed internally. So, I mean, do you remember?
I think earlier on the script page, unfortunately, I'm able to be part of the script, giving some kind of ideas and the suggestion based on background. And then I do notice in Asian culture, we don't say love. We don't say love directly to each other's eyes. We do things like, mom will cook me food. That's how they present in love. They will make sure if you're cold, you have a cold, you wear enough clothes or something. Dad never do that. Dad is always reading a newspaper, or just trying to ignore you, or they are playing fun with you. But they love you deeply, but they never say I love you. So in this movie, there's a couple moments in the earlier draft, they easily just say I love you, or I was like, that might be too early, because there's some sort of manly kind of thing in there, how and where and when they were able to say that word. So it put the moment when Tay was saying, can I call you my father? We stayed on him for a lot long, because there is a struggle of him, the guilt. Am I able to say it? And then so we made that play until he hear our Loma say yes, and then that dropped. So I think that's really important to reflect to our culture and to how we feel about that.
I do want to take a moment
This is Eric from IONCINEMA.com. If you want to support us, subscribe below. For more reviews, interviews, film festival coverage from Sundance, Cannes, Toronto, you want to check out these guys on this side.